Just 3 days after Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone made its magical debut, production on Chamber of Secrets commenced. With such a tight window, the cast and crew, many of whom were returning, could jump right into the adventure of it all, with barely even enough time to celebrate just how massive the franchise was looking to be. And so maybe we should follow suit. So hop in that flying car and sharpen that parcel tongue as we find out what the happened to this movie. Flying off of Stone, Chamber of Secrets kept many of the key crew members that helped make the first one such a beloved movie. Chris Columbus would direct, Steve Kloves would return to write, and David Heyman carried on as producer. This entry would be darker, as the film explores that which is deep underneath Hogwarts, the titular Chamber of Secrets, which has been opened, enemies of the heir beware and all that, courtesy of, well, he who must not be named. Other than the expected trio of Daniel Radcliffe, who was maturing faster than his Hogwarts classmates, Rupert Grint, and Emma Watson, Chamber of Secrets also cast returners Robbie Coltrane, Alan Rickman, Maggie Smith, Warwick Davis, Richard Griffiths, Richard Harris, and more.
Hagrid. In fact, I'd be prepared to swear it in front of the Ministry of Magic. Hagrid! Relax.
Notably, this would be Harris's final outing as Dumbledore, as he passed away just 1 month before the film's release.
It is not our abilities that show what we truly are. It is our choices.
The film also added a number of new cast members. Defense of the Dark Arts instructor Gilderoy Lockhart would be Kenneth Branagh. Hugh Grant was up but couldn't take it due to 2 weeks' notice.
When young Harry stepped into Flourish and Blots this morning to purchase my autobiography, Magical Me.
Alan Cumming was also in consideration, but once he found out how little he would be paid, told the producers to quote, off. Jason Isaacs originally auditioned for Lockhart, but was coaxed by Columbus into Lucius Malfoy, even though he was hesitant since he was set to play Captain Hook, another literary villain. Isaacs was perfectly cast here, of course, bringing a menacing pride to the character.
Your parents were meddlesome fools too. Mark my words, Potter. One day soon, you are going to meet the same sticky end.
There too was Moaning Myrtle, played by Shirley Henderson, who was 37 at the time.
Oh, Harry, if you die down there, you're welcome to share my toilet.
Thanks, Myrtle.
And of course, worth mentioning is one Tom Riddle, aka Lil Voldemort, played by Christian Carlson. Eddie Redmayne actually auditioned, but would have to wait until the Fantastic Beasts movies to join the franchise.
What are you doing here? Get out of my house!
Production began on November 19th, 2001, just 1 day after Stone secured its opening weekend record of $90 million. With that sort of momentum, the cast and crew set out to make a bigger, longer, and darker Harry Potter sequel. Several locations from the first were reused, including Leavesden Film Studios, Durham Cathedral, and Gloucester Cathedral, in addition to Alnwick Castle in Northumberland and Lacock Abbey in Wiltshire. The production and set design posed some fresh opportunities for the team, led by Stuart Craig, who received an Oscar nomination for his work on the previous movie. This apparently all paid off, as Daniel Radcliffe would later say it was, quote, one of the coolest sets he'd been on. And it's easy to see why, as the actual Chamber of Secrets was the biggest set ever designed for the franchise, measuring 249 feet long and 120 wide.
It's not much, but it's home. I think it's brilliant.
Another moment Radcliffe and audiences were dazzled by was the one in which viewers were taken from the Burrow, the home of the Weasley clan, to the Whomping Willow in a thrilling flying car sequence, the filming of which began even before the release of Sorcerer's Stone.
Hold on! I'm trying! Your hand's all sweaty!
For the landing, a few moments were entirely CGI, which proved a daunting task for the team, writing their own code to get everything on the tree, the leaves, the twigs, all of it perfect. Rendering for this took upwards of 4 to 5 hours per frame. On the practical side, a 1/3 scale was built at Shepperton Studios. The car itself, a 1962 Ford Anglia 105E, for those searching Facebook Marketplace.
Ron, I should tell you, most muggles aren't accustomed to seeing a flying car. Right.
Completing all of these special effects was a 9-month process, compared with Stone's mere 3, something Columbus regrets and says shows in the original. The primary effects were handled by Industrial Light and Magic, the Motion Picture Company, and more, handling approximately 950 visual effect shots, compared to Stone's 600 or so. For Chamber of Secrets, there were a number of key creatures that had to be created entirely or mostly through CGI, like Dobby, rumored to be based on Vladimir Putin, and the Basilisk, described as 60 feet long, but with a practically designed 30-foot long mouth. Speaking of snakes, in the scene where Draco makes one appear, the child actors had to follow the quote-unquote invisible CGI snake with their eyes perfectly. Even though they had lasers to help them follow the snake's movements, many couldn't, and so in some cases, the actors' eyes and even heads had to be replaced in post. That's right, CGI children. There too was Aragog the Acromantula, the most challenging creation for creature effects supervisor Nick Dudman. At 9 feet tall with an 18-foot leg span, it weighed 1,500 pounds and took a team of more than a dozen men to operate. Even to this day, Rupert Grint, who has arachnophobia, refuses to watch the scene.
Well, thank you. We'll just go.
More post-production work came in the sound, with the artist creating mandrake noises out of babies and women screaming.
Longbottom's been neglecting his earmuffs.
No, ma'am. He's just fainted.
Yes, well, just leave him there. Right, on we go.
While the Basilisk was a hybrid of humans, horses, lions, and much more. As for Parseltongue, that was created by a phonetics professor from Cambridge. To accompany all this was the score, but since it was an insanely busy year for John Williams, also scoring Attack of the Clones, Minority Report, and Catch Me If You Can, they had to bring in William Ross. Other key production crew changes were in the costumes and the photography. Lindy Hemming replaced Judiana Makovsky, but maintained much of what helps create the character's looks. Replacing John Seal behind the lens was Roger Pratt, whose credits of Batman and 12 Monkeys proved he could make a stylistically darker and edgier sequel. This is reflected immediately in the Warner Brothers logo at the beginning of the film, an iconic emblem that gets progressively darker as the series goes on. Production wrapped in July, with a shoot that was at least 1 month shorter than Stone.
I don't want any of you youngsters to worry. You'll still have your potions master when I'm through with him. Never fear.
And audiences would get to see it all when Chamber of Secrets, the longest film in the franchise at 2 hours and 41 minutes, had its world premiere in London on November 3rd, 2002, 4 months after filming wrapped. Following that, Chamber of Secrets hit the UK and the US on November 15th, boasting an $88.4 million opening weekend, the third highest ever at that point. It would go on to become the second highest grossing movie of 2002 worldwide, behind only Spider-Man, while domestically, it would fall behind Attack of the Clones. And while $262 million domestic and $879 worldwide is nothing to sneeze at, it didn't perform as well as Stone, although it did return to the top of the charts after Die Another Day ran through most of its hype.
Been busy, have we, Mr. Bond?
Just surviving, Mr. Chang. Just surviving.
It also wouldn't receive any Academy Award recognition, just one of 2, along with Order of the Phoenix, Harry Potter movies to be shut out at the Oscars. It fared much better at the BAFTAs, with nods for its production design, visual effects, and sound design. As far as critical and commercial reception, Chamber of Secrets had nearly identical Rotten Tomatoes scores to Stone, although most contemporary assessments would place it below its predecessor for being too long and laborious, especially since the book is one of the shortest.
The culprit has been identified, I presume?
Oh, yes.
And?
Voldemort.
Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets would be Columbus's last film in the franchise, a decision made so he could spend time with his own children. He considered returning for the final film, Deathly Hallows, but this would not come to fruition. So what did happen with the two-part Deathly Hallows? And what became of Harry, Hermione, and Ron? Well, holster that wand because we've got a ways to go as we cover the entire Harry Potter franchise here on What the Happened to This Movie?
Let us hope that Mr. Potter will always be around to save the day.
Don't worry. I will be.